get to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It's the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say this before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve, so you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I know a lot of people are just coming back from the holiday, because there was a 3-day weekend for some of you. And we are getting back in, and we're getting slow to start here this morning, but we got freight moving. We got things to talk about today. And I was going to have a guest on, but, you know, like I always say, you guys, everybody on my show has a day job, and sometimes things pop up. So I have no problem switching over to a solo show and talking about some hard truths which I knew before I started my business. And, you know, now coming up on 6 years of being self-employed and looking back over those 6 years, what some of those lessons that I've learned, you know, in particular to freight. But little quick reminder, tomorrow morning, our weekly newsletter drops, okay? So if you want to get in on it, though, it drops once a week only, just on Wednesdays. I need you to go to thefreightcoach.com, though, to register for it. Again, drops once a week, just on Wednesdays. I just don't want to auto sign up my contact list to it, because I frankly don't like it when people do it for me. So I try not to do that to anybody else out there, and I try to hold those same standards. But let's jump in. These lane reports that I've been doing have been getting some pretty solid feedback out there on the old interweb. So I'm going to continue with this, you guys, because again, it's all about finding that stability. And that's the post that I had put out there this morning in particular about this, right? Like it's very easy to point to certain data points out there and try and make it an overarching statement about what's going on in the market. But this is a lot. It's more stable than most people actually think. It's a lot more stable than most people actually think. And we've been talking about refrigerated freight here. I'm going to go into my wheelhouse, and this is flatbed freight. So here's what we got going on today, you guys. We have Atlanta, Georgia to Little Rock, Arkansas. Now, again, notate the miles. All right, it's 500 miles. So this falls into that category of what day of the week it ships on does affect the pricing on it. Friday to Monday, unless it's a driver who lives in Arkansas and needs to get back, could see an increase on the rates out there. And then the same with the inverse. If it's one of those that picks up in Little Rock and has to deliver to Atlanta on Monday, again, you could see an elevated rate on that, where you see these averages across the board. It would be on the higher end of that more times than not, unless it's a driver who's just getting back home out there. So again, if we look at this, Atlanta to Little Rock, across the board, this is probably the most stable lane that you're going to find. There's only a $200 variance over the last 12 months. And that is not that much of a shift at all if we're looking at it. Just looking at it from a rate per mile perspective here. So if we just round up on there, so it's essentially, it was moving at 240 a mile out there, and then now, so again, it raised about $100 over this year. So that's nothing across the board. That is the epitome of stability in any freight market that I've ever seen. And then especially if you look at it, this shift really started happening over the last 30 days. But again, what did we see over the last 30 days? It was the holidays and everything else. So that all starts to factor into some of those things. But most importantly, you look at the inverse here. You look at Little Rock going back into Atlanta. Same situation here, you guys. It's about a $200 variance out there across the board. But if you're bringing that stability to your customers and bringing those rates out there, and you're out there actually applying the things that we talk about on the show with using consistent carriers, I would argue your rates are not going to vary in the $200 mark. I bet you it's going to be closer to the $100 mark out there. But again, if you look at those, the transit times, because that is the most important factor when you're out there building up a relationship with your customers. It's bringing that education piece that a lot of individuals don't, right? A lot of people are truck in hand, last minute opportunities as you're starting. That's how you're going to get in the door with a lot of customers. It's going to be a last minute, late night shipment, something like that. And then you got to work your way around. But it's very important to bring the exact same price for as long as possible. And when you're pricing out lanes like this, you guys, again, in that 500-mile mark, from a Friday to Monday perspective, you're going to see an increased rate on that as opposed to a Monday to Thursday rate. It's going to be probably the exact same across the board, but you will see a slight elevation on it to cover the weekends. Again, unless you're getting a driver who is getting repositioned back home and that load gets them back into their core markets. You do find them out there. But again, if you're out there using the same carriers time and time again, that is your job, is to uncover those carriers so you can keep that price as consistent as possible. Because again, you guys, it doesn't switch as much as a lot of people want you to think. And I'm going to continue to harp on this out there, especially as more and more individuals are posting content about one direction or the other about what's going on out there. And I'm going to talk to you guys about like the stability factor of it. And then on top of it, who cares, right? Like that's our literal job, is to deal with this stuff and to plan when things happen, because somebody's going to figure it out, right? Somebody does figure it out, and they're going to continue to figure it out, because that's just the way that the market works. And that's just what you signed up for. I just want you guys to be as prepared as possible as we are going through this time frame, because again, it might sound scary out there at times, but it's a lot more stable than you think. And that is your job, is to deliver that across the board to our customers, our carriers, and everything else. Because ironically, that's why people like working with you, is you want to make their lives easier. You don't want to go to them with a problem and a price increase or this and that and everything under the sun, because in due time, you guys, rest assured, in due time, your customers will pay you more than the open market when you execute for them on a very high level for a very, very, very long time. Okay. That I know is a fact. And they will pay that premium compared to everybody else, because a lot of people's entire pricing strategy is get in the door at rock bottom rates, break even for for a little bit of time, and then raise up your prices. I don't believe in that at all. I want to set the tone right away on how I quote, and I don't negotiate against myself, because those are some strategies that you have to, gain with experience over time. Is if they're coming to you with a quote, how do you know how many brokers or carriers are actually bidding on that? And then do you know if you're negotiating against yourself? I've just been told this. I've had direct feedback from my customers throughout my career who have said sometimes we just waited 5 minutes and we knew that if we didn't reply right away, you would drop your rate and that would save us money. So again, take all those things into consideration as you're going out there and trying to build up your book of business, because, there is plenty of opportunities out there in the market, you guys. It just takes a lot of work to get to that point. But let's jump into some of these hard truths about business, you guys, because that's another thing that I see quite frequently out there is how easy it is, right? And how you should just walk away from your salary to go take a 1099 job somewhere and, bet the farm on yourself, because there's so many more opportunities and, and there's so much more upside. And again, there can be potentially, but there's also a whole other side of this coin that doesn't get talked about, because again, it's not sexy, right? Like I can't sell most individuals on the fact that when you go out there on your own, you are going to experience levels of stress and uncertainty you never thought were fathomable when you were an employee. And the first one we're going to talk about is because this is what kills almost all businesses out there, is cash flow. All right. It is great to talk about how much money your company grosses in revenue and bills, but like if you're not getting paid, or if your margins are shit and you're not making any money on that, that's just smoke and mirrors. Like I was talking to a buddy of mine here about this, because like there's a lot of companies who, you see that they are, they're doing over $1 billion a year, or they raised X amount of money and everything else, but they're not making money, and that's the thing that I think I struggle with here a lot is, what makes a successful entrepreneur? The person who raised a bunch of money and sold a company, their shares were so diluted that they didn't actually make anything on it, but they can go out there and market that they sold a air quote $1 billion company, but like they actually didn't make any money on the sale of anything and they just burned a bunch of capital. Is that a better entrepreneur? Or is the better entrepreneur the one who bootstrapped their business up? They are profitable. They're not nearly as headline grabbing out there, but they have a very stable foundation and they can withstand markets and everything else. And their emergency funds and everything they can carry their OpEx for and cover their OpEx for like 12 months or 24 months and everything else. Like I would argue company number 2 is the way better entrepreneur that is out there but like they'll never get any of the headlines. They'll never get any of that because it's really sexy to be like, oh, this company was doing, say, $800 million a year, and then they got acquired, and then all of a sudden, or they got sold, and their shares were so diluted, they didn't even make any money on the sale. Or you see an $800 million exit, and they cashed out after taxes for like 500 grand. Like, again, it sounds great on paper, but like your cash flow is everything. And you got to be in business to make money, not just raise capital and generate revenue. You have to build that stability and that foundation. And that's one thing that like I wish I spent a lot more time on early on in my business is truly understanding your P&L and truly going through that. And that's why it's like I hired a bookkeeper in my business. So I have 2 companies, right? Like I have Freight Coach Enterprises. That is the media stuff. That's the podcast and everything else. And then I have Freight Coach Logistics, which is our brokerage and everything. And we're an agent with SPI Logistics. So there's 2 separate entities that run everything. But I'm going to talk about the first business I started, and that's Freight Coach Enterprises. So like I have a bookkeeper inside of that one. I contract with her. She's great. And she's been sending me my P&L now. I mean, I've been working with her for probably 4 years in total. And I, as of lately, am just like everybody. I'm trying. This is one of those like mindset shifts that comes along with it, because coming in to 2026, this was the first time in the entirety of my business that I had multiple 12-month contracts signed prior to the start of the year, right? So stability was one part of it, but now I'm looking at all of my expenses that are coming in. What am I paying for? Because like I want to actually increase the profitability of my company, build up the cash reserves of my company, because as you're building and scaling, you're going to be investing in a lot of things. And we're going to get into that, like you're going to invest in technology, you're going to invest in equipment and everything else. But again, it's like as your cash flow and your business is making money, how are you building the foundation of your company? Because getting paid, billing $1,000 sounds awesome, but when you actually get paid for that invoice is 2 very different things. And that's what I'm talking about, of like the stresses of not knowing, or like if payments are delayed and stuff like that. It's a level of stress that I never knew until I was in the trenches and trying to build things up. Because when you owe like say $10,000 in payables and you're owed, like $12,000 in receivables, and it's getting closer and closer and closer to the end of the month, your stress level starts to increase exponentially. That's out there. So it's like staying on top of that. And then again, it's like, how are you, the cost of acquiring that capital that comes in? There's, if you're out there and you're offering, whether it's ACH, there's like, most banks don't have an ACH fee that comes along with it. But if you're offering getting paid by credit card, there's a fee that comes along with it. Or if you use a company like QuickBooks, for example, there's a fee that comes along with it. And, it doesn't seem like much on a per transaction basis. But if you add up over the time, we're talking about $5,000 to $10,000 in fees just from a payment processing company and everything else. So it's like that $1,000 that you're making on a shipment, or you're grossing on a shipment, once you start to subtract your fees and taxes and everything else, it gets whittled down very, very, very quickly. So I would say that, number one, understanding your cash flow, building up your reserves, having an operating account, like your primary checking account, have your business savings account, and then start saving for taxes right away as well, and splitting that into 3 buckets. And, again, you guys utilize AI for this, right? Like I'm starting to play around with it a lot inside of my business. And I'm currently reading a book right now. It's called The AI Driven Leader. I would check it out. You can get it on Audible and Amazon and everything else. But there's AI tools that are out there, you guys, where you can like drop your P&L in there and ask it, hey, dissect my P&L as if you were a CFO for my company. What are some of these trends that are raising alarms for you? Go through all of that and have it start picking stuff apart, because most of the time when you're starting out, you are so consumed with getting customers, getting revenue, moving freight, getting stuff rolling through the door, that you don't look at the services that you're signing up for. And all of a sudden you're paying $50 here and $80 there and $90 there. And then before you know it, it doesn't look like much on a transaction basis, but over a 12-month period, we're looking at $3,000 to $4,000 in services that you maybe don't even use, at least not to justify the monthly expense. And so it's like, again, that $3,000 to $4,000, you could take that additional cash, throw it into your savings account or into your tax account and everything else to help build that foundation of your business. So that's number one. It's going to be cash flow, understanding it. Very, very, very crucial. Number 2, technology. All right. Obviously there's not a shortage of technology tools that are out there in any industry, but it's not your savior. Okay. And what do I mean by that? Yes, I am a massive fan of technology. I plan on automating like 90 to 95% of my day, because you can, and it takes some work, but you can do that, but it's not your savior. All right. It is not going to be, buy this piece of technology, then all your problems go away, because ultimately you cannot automate broken processes, because otherwise now you just have automated shitty processes. So for me, it's like you have to be looking at your core SOPs at all times. Like, is this still working? And that was another piece of the post that I put out this morning. Like, what's my strategy for 2026? The exact same as what we did in 2025, because we grew in our core pillars of our business. New customers, we added new customers. We grew our market share with our existing customers, and our revenue and profits grew overall, right? So it's like, we're going to run the exact same play out there. There's no piece of technology that is on the table right now that I want to integrate into my operations for where my business currently stands. Now, there's different levels to this stuff, right? Like the larger players, like, a lot of people saw, C.H. Robinson, which, I'm a fan of C.H. Robinson and their AI push that was out there. And they think like, oh, if C.H. Robinson's doing it, we might need to do it. I'm not here to say that you should or shouldn't do anything like that. But again, if your stuff doesn't work on paper, it's not going to work in technology. And if you can't afford it, don't invest in it. Like I would say this, as a broker, pieces of technology that are a must. TMS, first and foremost. Hit up my friends at Revinova. They will gladly talk to you guys about your operation. Number 2, if you're out there and you're building your book of business and you're trying to add customers, you need a CRM. You might be like, well, you used to be against CRMs. I was, until I signed up with Sales Dash. Sales Dash is not an advertiser of mine. I am a customer of theirs. They have helped us out exponentially in organizing our outreach to our prospects and our customers. And I think that, and then load boards, that is the technology that you need. I operate my business off of my cell phone. We will be eventually upgrading into an overall phone system and stuff like that that's out there. But at your core, you need a TMS, a CRM, and you need load board access from a technology standpoint. There's a lot of other great automation tools that are out there. I'm just talking about like, what do you actually need to start moving freight? And then as you grow in scale, then you can start looking at other tools. Because again, how do we keep our expenses down and improve our profitability? And you cannot do that if you're constantly signing up for another piece of technology that might sound great on paper, but does your business actually need it? Number 3, networking. All right. This is another thing that I sucked at for a very, very long time in my career. And your network, if you are strategic about it and going out there and talking to as many people as possible, like I'm very fortunate that I have a very large network now, almost 6 years into this show. And, my network bailed me out of a situation last week or 2 weeks ago that I had never been in before. All right. I've been doing this job for over 15 years and I found myself in a situation and I needed a bailout and I needed a bailout really quick. And we had to be very decisive because it was a very large customer of ours, their freight, and some things went on. All I had to do was make one phone call to a friend of mine that I know up in Reno, Nevada, and I was able to get my entire thing resolved in 30 minutes. I say that as an example because, like, if I didn't have that contact, I would have spent hours on Google and everywhere else trying to find a resolution that could have caused a delay. It could have went bad very, very quickly. And I'm telling you guys right now, knowing people in the right positions across the country is going to bode well for you. You look at transportation, for example, as a whole. I would say knowing somebody or a business that has a nationwide footprint for cross-docking and transloading product, I would say that would be at like the top of the list of people that I would want to get to know in the industry. A guy like Matt Fain, for example, with Pop Capacity, he is a very great resource for stuff like that. And you know what? Maybe you don't have a nationwide presence that's out there. Maybe you just run in the Southwest, for example. Whatever interstates that you're running on, I would just Google transloading Phoenix, Arizona, El Paso, Texas, Albuquerque, New Mexico, something along those lines, and just try and build up that network. That is one of those things. And then again, if you own a trucking company that's out there parking, stuff like that, and you're building out your network, build that out to help vertically integrate inside of your business, because it's one of those situations that I want to sit here and say that like everything's going to work out, but it's not. And you're going to be in a situation where you're going to need to resolve an issue quick. And our customers don't pay us for trucks showing up on time and delivering on time. That is our literal job. They pay us when things go wrong, that we can get with them with a solution, get it resolved, and make sure everything's going to be taken care of. So network, network, network. Get to know anyone and everyone that has to do with the transportation industry. Number 4, I don't just say riches are in the niches or find a niche because like it sounds cool and it rhymes, right? I say this because I feel like we are at a time that having a specialization is going to help you stand out in a crowd. And our business is proof of that. When we are prospecting people, you guys, we do full truckload. We primarily do open deck transportation, but our core fundamental focus is developing customers that move open deck freight. That helps us stand out, you guys. It truly does. And especially if we can go in and visit them in person. That has been the greatest ROI for our business over the last 12 months is our willingness and ability to show up and meet people in person. That has got us past the gatekeeper. That has got us in the door. Just this last week, we expanded out with a customer of ours. We started moving freight for another location. This is the fastest I've ever seen this done. We went down and visited this new location within 24 hours. Like within 2 hours of leaving, we had our first load from them. Within 24 hours of that meeting, we had our first load completed, picked and delivered with that facility, right? And that all came from a site visit over a year ago. Takes a lot of work to build this stuff up. But again, that is a superpower that we have implemented inside of our business. And then when we get deep in with some of our prospects, that's our thing. How can we go and visit you? How can we meet up with you in person? That's our thing. That's what we want to do. And our simplicity of our approach is it's all about that niche. It's all about that specialization, because I can go in there and tactically prospect my customers regardless of what they produce. If it's shipping it on a flatbed or a step deck or a Conestoga or it's oversized, I can talk to them about stuff immediately that trips their radars that would take somebody else 12 months to even figure out. And it's just a way for me to get noticed, because that's where it is. It's understanding where we're at in the prospecting process, getting noticed, and having them remember me, the more and more that we reach out to them. And then number 5, the one thing that you're never going to be able to budget for inside of your business is regulations, right? What's going on in DC, the state level, and everything else. Like, I look at like insurance is the big thing this year. My insurance went by for just for conversation. I was paying for my family. I'm self-employed, so I have to buy private insurance. My insurance went up $600 a month just for health, vision, and dental. I'm self-employed. That went up $600 a month. And my commercial auto insurance policy, which covers the vehicle that my company owns, as well as my building that I rent from and everything, that also had like an 8% increase across the board. All of that, the health insurance stuff came down from regulations, right? Like that is from a tax subsidy that went away. That pay attention to that one, you guys, because it might work its way back in, and all of a sudden the health insurance was raised on the entire population, and all of the stuff that they wanted to remove is back in. Pay attention to that. I might blow a gasket if that comes through and they pass those subsidies. But nonetheless, you guys, that legislation increased my P&L by $7,500 for 2026, right? So you can't necessarily plan for that. And I wish it was always as easy as, oh, just add more customers and make more money. I understand that, but like regulations and laws are being passed all the time. And before you know it, those are those hidden expenses that you can't really budget for, right? Because you just don't know when it's going to come in. And yeah, you can be notified like, hey, your health insurance is going up. But you got 2 months to plan for it, or you got 30 days to plan for it. This got rushed through. There's a bunch of things. And those are the things that you have to pay attention to. So I think that those are my 5. And to kind of summarize it here, you guys, cash flow, number 1. Number 2, technology. It's a tool. It's not your savior. It's not going to fix your business. Networking. Number 3, network. Number 4, the riches are in the niches. I don't just say it to rhyme. And number 5, regulations. That is one of those things that are going to constantly come out. So I just look at it is if I was in, and this is what I work on a lot of the time, is I'm always auditing, where is my money going? Do we actually need these tools? I ask my team frequently, are we like, hey, we're paying for this tool. Are we using it still? And it might be annoying, but like, I'm here to increase my, the stability of my business, because I'm still a small business. We are still building. We are working very, very hard to keep that up. And I don't want to bleed out financially because I was paying for a bunch of services that we weren't actually using. So I would start there. But that's my little thing for today, you guys. Again, I just want people to be prepared for it before they go out there, and just keep some things in line and top of mind if you're going to go out there and take a risk and take a bet on yourself, right? It's worth it. It's worth every second of it. But I feel like it's my duty to let people know the truth of all of this stuff, because like at the end of the day, I'm not trying to sell you guys on doing anything. I'm just letting you guys know like what has worked for me, what doesn't work for me. And that's where we're going to continue with this. But that will be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed to the show, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank it on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, that's how your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money in it.